Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to Season 1 Part 1 of What If Deku Was Trained by Stain. Let's get into the video. The first day of Izuku Midoriya's middle school career was like any other, miserable. His childhood friend and bully, Bakugo Katsuki, along with his other classmates, had ruthlessly tormented the boy for being quirkless. He was an easy target for the other students. They mocked him for wanting to be a hero despite not having any powers, and the teachers didn't care. That day in particular had been exceedingly rough due to Bakugo, or as he still referred to the boy as Kaken, riling up the other kids and getting them to gang up on him in dodgeball during gym. His body ached thinking about it, and he was fighting back tears. The other kids followed Kaken in calling him Deku as a way to remind him of how worthless he was as they pelted him with balls. Izuku shook the tears away along with the thoughts of how his day went. He was going to be positive, so he put on a big smile and forced himself to laugh, doing his best to imitate the number one hero, All Might. The action got a few weird looks from passers-by. Not that it really mattered. Midoriya looked up to the man and wanted to be a hero just like him. He wanted to save everyone with a smile on his face and reassure others with his presence. Izuku's walk home was interrupted by the start of a commotion across the street. A monstrously large man had cornered a kid about Izuku's age, asking about something. The man was getting angrier and angrier by the second, looking like he was preparing to kill the child if he didn't get what he wanted. The large, horrifying man demanded instructions from the kid he was scaring, his fingers sticking into and starting to crumble the building behind the child. There were no pro heroes around to help, and Midoriya was shaking from fear with eyes wide in horror. Nobody was moving. They were all just watching as this kid was going to be crushed under the cracking building, fear coursing through his body and tears welling up. Izuku ran to block the villain from the child, arms spread wide and head down as he sputtered out random directions to calm the large man down. The villain stopped what he was doing, calming down, and gave his thanks as he walked away. As soon as he was out of sight, Izuku's legs gave out from under him and the person he saved ran away. The boy sat there, slowly processing what he had just done. Realizing he should hightail it out of there before the man found out the directions he was given were made up, Midoriya got up and left, smiling to himself all the way home, thinking about how he saved someone. Unknown to him, though, he had caught the eye of a blade-clad passerby who had been in a nearby alleyway. This new mysterious man decided he'd keep an eye on Deku for at least a little while. The next day after school, Midoriya found himself exploring the clearing him and Kaken would play in his kids. He stopped in his tracks. Izuku saw Kaken and his lackeys threatening to beat up one of their classmates. The kid probably did something that set Bakugo off, which really could have been anything. Thinking back on how he saved someone yesterday, Midoriya gathered up what little courage he had and ran to protect his bully's next victim. He regretted it almost as soon as he did it. The previously bullied child ended up joining in on tormenting Izuku, and then the group left once they had their fun. Lying on the ground, dazed, staring up at nothing, he let the feeling of worthlessness sink into him. He was so distracted he didn't notice the knife pass by his head until it was stuck in the ground, not even inches away from his arm. With delayed reaction time, he jumped up, and soon after he heard what sounded like feet hitting the ground. Izuku froze, scared again and unsure what to do. After what felt like an eternity, the man spoke, his voice frightening. Don't listen to those kids. They're a symptom of a weak society that warps the definition of what a hero truly. Still scared and unsure, Deku turned around hesitantly to listen to what the man was saying. He was littered in blades, a white cloth wrapped around his face like a mask, and he looked almost like a ninja, a sickening, disheveled ninja. The man kept talking. Your best bet of becoming a real hero is training with me. Unlike them, you have what it takes to be a true hero. Izuku loosened up. This man had told him he could be a hero and offered to train him. He was too shocked to say anything. He just stood there. The man offered again, and Midoriya nodded in confirmation. He responded, "Good, we'll start right now. What's your name?" They formally introduced themselves to each other and immediately started their first day of training. When Deku got home late, bruised and a little more than scraped up, his mother freaked out, but he assured her that he was fine. Midoriya told her that he decided to start training in the woods a bit and had fallen a few times. It wasn't a complete lie. He was just omitting the details of the harsh hand-to-hand combat training his new mentor, Stain, put him through. She didn't believe him, but knew by now to leave well enough alone. Their night went on like normal. The next day after school, he met up with Stain in the same spot as last time. Eventually, the harsh training became a regular routine. Every day at the same time, they would have an all-out sparring sessions and critique. Eventually, an entire year passed, and Izuku was stronger and proficient enough in hand-to-hand combat, as well as using swords and knives from both close range and at a distance. He started carrying around some knives for self-defense and practiced often with a sword. The day came when Stain left. They said their farewells, and he left Deku with new ideals. He was going to show society what a true hero really was while exposing and changing the ways of the fake heroes fostered by said society. The following years, Deku continued training by himself. The bullying at school started to die down a bit when people started taking notice of his increased physical strength and physique. On occasion, Bakugo would join Izuku in his training, but that didn't change his opinion of the boy much. He still didn't think Deku could be a hero, but he also didn't think the boy was as worthless as he was before. Eventually, their last year of middle school was coming close to an end, and the topic of picking a high school came up. The class laughed at him when the teacher exposed that he was applying to UA Hero Academy. Bakugo chimed in with, "You might be able to defend yourself a little, but without a quirk you're still just a Deku compared to the real heroes. Save yourself from the humiliation." Izuku decided to stay quiet and keep his thoughts to himself. He didn't consider heroes like Endeavor, Mount Lady, and Kamui Woods real heroes. They were all showbiz, arrogance, and in it for the money and perks. After the school day ended, Bakugo and Midoriya went their separate ways. They normally didn't train together, and their infrequent sessions had become even less frequent due to each of them wanting to train solo for the entrance exams. He didn't like the way Bakugo thought of heroes, but figured with more time he would come around to the idea of what a real hero is. As slow as it had been, he could see his childhood friend coming around to him. His thoughts of heroes were interrupted though at a sudden lack of oxygen. He was being attacked by a villain made of sludge. He grabbed for one of his knives, stabbing around anywhere he could to try and fight off the villain. But it was no use, he wasn't doing any damage. Izuku was about to lose consciousness just as All Might appeared to save the day. With one punch the villain splattered and Midoriya was saved. As the hero cleaned up the mess and detained the criminal in 2 empty soda bottles, the boy stood frozen. Once the mess was clean, Deku finally thought to move. He took out his notebook and asked for an autograph, to which his idol was more than happy to oblige. Izuku had so many questions running through his head, and by the time he thought to ask, All Might was leaping away. Deku latched onto All Might's leg, and after some commotion they landed onto the roof of a hospital. Midoriya tried to stammer out a question. He wanted to know more than anything if he could truly be a hero as his mentor had told him, even without a quirk. He still believed what Stain said about him, but it had been so long since someone was truly on his side that he felt a need for reassurance. He closed his eyes, gathering up all his courage, and asked the hero if his mentor was right, and that he could become a great hero even without a quirk. When he opened his eyes and looked up, All Might turned into Small Might. His features looked like death, and Izuku freaked. After a bit of time, the hero explained that an incident with a villain caused him to be in such a state. All Might told Deku that whoever said he could become a hero had given him false hope, and that he would die before he'd be able to save anyone. He left the boy alone on the roof, and they both went about their separate ways. Izuku felt conflicted as he walked home. He was just told by the man he looked up to more than anyone else that everything he believed had been a lie. He had just been told that Stain was wrong, that he couldn't be a hero. He was feeling a lot of things he didn't understand, but he didn't have time to dwell on it for long. There was a commotion in a nearby alleyway. A student had been taken hostage by a villain, and the pros weren't doing anything. When Izuku saw the situation for himself, his stomach dropped. Kaken was struggling against the sludge villain All Might had previously apprehended. It didn't take long for him to realize that the villain must have escaped when he grabbed onto All Might's leg. In that moment, he didn't care what All Might said. He didn't care if he could be a hero or not. What he did care about was that the closest thing to a friend he had was in danger. It was his fault, and the pros refused to do anything. He pushed through the crowd of people, letting instinct take over. As he ran at the villain, he threw one of his knives into its eye, blinding it and putting it through immense pain. He continued to rush towards the evildoer and started trying to claw and punch away the sludge encasing Bakugo. The next thing he knew, All Might had saved both of them with a punch so strong it caused a rainstorm, and the villain splattered in every direction. After things settled a bit, Katsuki got praised for having a strong quirk and enduring the villain attack, while Izuku was chewed out for being reckless. He wanted to talk back, point out that Kaken could have died because they weren't being real heroes and he had to step in. But his anxiety was still too high from the situation to do anything aside from nod along. On his way home, Midoriya was stopped by All Might, who apologized to him and told the boy that he, too, can become a hero. As Izuku started to cry tears of joy from hearing this, he was told that whoever his mentor was right. All Might told him that he was worthy of becoming the next symbol of peace and inherit the #1 hero's power. In response to hearing this, Izuku looked up at All Might. Confusion sprawled across his face. Honey is a free browser add-on available on Google, Opera, Firefox, Safari. If it's a browser, it is Honey. All you have to do is, when you're checking out on one of these major sites, just click that little orange button, and it will scan the entire internet to find discount codes for you. They can normally save you between 2 and 15%. Trust me, that adds up. There's literally no reason not to install Honey. It takes 2 clicks. Oh, and did we mention that it's free? Over 10 million people use it, and it has 100,000 5-star reviews. So if you'd like to start saving money now, go to the link in the description and install Honey. Thank you all for watching the video to the end. Now there is a few more things that I'd like to go over before the video ends. Firstly, I'd like to let you all know that we have a merch store. Some of the items in it are only available for a limited amount of time. So if you're interested, go into the description and check it out. Each purchase helps us make more content. Secondly, I'd like to thank our $5 plus Patreon supporters for helping to fund these videos. Lastly, on behalf of We The Celestials, I'd like to thank the writer for this video, as well as the editor for this video. Their details will be in the description. If you're a voice actor, editor, or writer, or you're interested in becoming one of those, go to the Discord that is in the description of this video and hit up the head of one of those areas. We're always looking for members to join us. That's it from us for today's video. So thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're interested, and hit that like button if you liked the video. Until next time, peace out mortals, have an amazing day. Deku's training is about to start, along with the UA entrance exams and his new high school career. Potential conflict with a familiar face looms in the distance for our main character. Next time in What If Deku Was Trained by Stain? How will our hero react to all these new changes around him?